In my previous life, I was adopted into the Sang family and became the medicinal offering for the autistic young master. Everyone envied me for rising to prominence. Even my sister was jealous that I married into a wealthy family, pouring gasoline on me at my child's full moon banquet, seeking to end both our lives. Yet no one knew that the autistic young man would stand by my bedside at night, his fingers around my throat, his eyes filled with excitement. Back from the dead, I coldly watched the barrage of comments flood the screen. What, picking a foster daughter? This wealthy family is just choosing a toy for their autistic son. The chosen one has to coax the young master to speak, with a reward of 5 million for success. Actually, getting him to speak is easy. Just tell him you let him lick your toes at midnight. Sister eagerly raised her hand. I'll go. I laughed. All right, this lifetime, you become his prey, and I'll be the gravedigger for both of you. Tingxue, Wangshu, tidy yourselves up, we have important guests arriving. The dean's voice came from the hallway, snapping me back to reality. I pinched my own thigh, the pain so real it made me want to cry. I had truly been reborn, back to the day the Sang family came to adopt a child. At that moment, my sister had already jumped up and was rummaging through our shared wardrobe. She picked out the most decent blue dress and turned to ask me, "Sister, which one are you going to wear?" I slowly sat up, letting my memories overlap with reality. In my previous life, my younger sister absolutely refused to go to the Sang family, saying she would rather stay at the orphanage where she felt free, and I went, living a seemingly glamorous life until the day of my child's full moon celebration, when my sister poured gasoline on us. "I'll just wear this." I casually picked up a beige top, deliberately choosing the most inconspicuous one. My sister's lips curved almost imperceptibly upward, then quickly flattened again. She didn't know that I had already seen through her little scheme. The sound of high heels echoed down the corridor, followed by the dean's obsequious greeting, "Mrs. Sang, it's truly an honor to have you here." As the door was pushed open, I saw a few lines of bullet comments floating in the air. "This lady is here to choose a playmate for her autistic son. The chosen child is expected to get her son to speak. I heard there's a great reward for success." Bullet comments. I've seen these strange characters in my past life. They always provide information I don't know, but this time, I noticed my sister's eyes were also slightly moving. She can see them too, but it seems she doesn't see as much as I do. "Are these the two children?" Mrs. Sang entered the room, looking us over as if we were merchandise. The headmistress quickly nodded. "Yan Tingxue and Yan Wangshu, the two most outstanding girls in our institution. The older sister, Tingxue, is sensible, and the younger sister, Wangshu, is lively." Mrs. Sang raised her hand, and the headmistress immediately fell silent. She walked up to us and said, "I only need one child, who is willing to come with me." Before I could speak, my younger sister had already taken a step forward. "I am, madam, I will be very obedient." Madam Sang seemed somewhat surprised and turned to me. "What about you?" In my previous life, I had agreed almost immediately. This time, I lowered my eyes and twisted my fingers together. I can't bear to leave the director and my friends." New bullet comments floated in the air. "This sister is so foolish, missing a great opportunity. I heard that as long as you get the young master to speak, you'll get endless money. Getting an autistic person to speak is simple. Just slander them by saying they licked your toes in the middle of the night, and they'll refute it." I struggled to hold back a cold laugh. In my past life, I used this exact comment to make Sang Yuchuan speak, but the cost was becoming the object of his pathological obsession. As expected, Mrs. Sang was more satisfied with her sister's choice. "I'll come pick you up tomorrow." She gave me one last look before turning around. "If you change your mind, you can tell the dean." After they left, my sister jumped up excitedly. "Sister, we're going to have completely different lives." "Yes, completely different," I responded softly. She didn't know that I had just saved her and doomed her. Behind the Sang family's wealth lay Sang Yichuan's twisted desire for control, where he treated those he liked as collectibles, preserving them in various ways. In my previous life, I thought it was love, until I discovered the photos of other collectibles in his basement. Her sister hummed a tune out of key while packing her meager belongings. I pretended to be asleep, listening to the sounds of her movements in the dark. "Tomorrow, she will step into that golden cage, and I will begin my revenge, not against my sister, but against the Sang family that ruined both our lives." and the seemingly introverted yet actually sick Sang Yuchuan. Just as dawn broke, the black car of the Sang family arrived at the orphanage gate. Mrs. Sang did not come in person, only sending the housekeeper and driver. The younger sister wore that blue dress, her hair meticulously combed, looking like a delicate doll. The headmistress, with reddened eyes, spoke hypocritical farewell words, while the other children watched her with envy. "Sister, I will come back to see you," my sister whispered in my ear as she hugged me. "Once I get settled, I'll bring you out too." I pretended to be moved and nodded. What a touching sisterly bond. If only I didn't know everything that happened in my past life. "I'll wait for you." I squeezed out 2 tears. Just before getting into the car, my sister suddenly turned back to look at me. The sunlight shone on her face, and for a moment I almost thought she had been reborn too. Her eyes were too complicated, not at all like those of an excited girl about to enter a wealthy family. 3 months later, I was adopted by a middle-aged couple. The husband was a middle school Chinese teacher, and the wife worked as a nurse at the community hospital. The family background is ordinary, but sufficient for a comfortable life. Most importantly, they are kind to the point of being almost naive. "Tingxue, this is your room." Foster mother Aunt Lin pushed open the door to the small bedroom on the second floor, her eyes filled with anticipation. "I wonder if you'll like this color." Light blue walls, a white desk, and a brand new teddy bear on the bed. I pinched my thigh hard, forcing out a few tears. "Thank you, I never imagined having such a nice room," I choked out. The second week after settling in, the director called to say that my sister was coming back to the orphanage to visit her family. "She specifically asked about you." The director's voice was sycophantic. "Mrs. Sang treats her so well. I heard she even hired a French tutor for her." I gripped the phone tightly. In my past life, at this time, I was still in the Sang household, anxiously trying every possible method to get Sang Yuchuan to speak, while my sister was spreading rumors at the orphanage that I had gone to the Sang family to work as a maid. "I'll go back to see her," I said softly. The day my sister returned to the orphanage, the entire place felt like it was celebrating a holiday. The children crowded by the window, watching the silver BMW slowly drive in. When the car door opened, my sister stepped out with permed hair and a thin platinum bracelet on her wrist. "Sister," she saw me and dramatically spread her arms wide. I stood still, waiting for her to walk over and hug me. "You look very different." I deliberately made my clothes look older and simply tied my hair into a ponytail. My sister spun around triumphantly. "Madame Sang said I have a talent for taste." She lowered her voice. I got Sang Yichuan to speak, and Madame Sang was so delighted that she gave me 50,000 yuan for pocket money. I widened my eyes in feigned surprise. "How did you do that?" She winked mysteriously. "Someone gave me a hint." "You're really amazing. Is Master Sang easy to get along with?" My sister's smile stiffened for a moment, so fast it was almost imperceptible. "He's very special. He doesn't talk much, but he's very obedient." She suddenly grabbed my hand. "Come and see the gift lady gave me." She dragged me towards the bench in the courtyard, pulling out a velvet box from her bag. Inside was a delicate silver necklace, with a small diamond pendant. "It's beautiful," I said sincerely, not because of the necklace, but because there was already a faint red mark on my sister's neck. In his previous life, Sang Yuchuan also liked to pinch my neck, saying it allowed him to feel the pulse. My sister went on and on about the luxurious life of the Sang family. Her walk-in closet was bigger than our old dorm room. She had a professional stylist every day, and Mrs. Sang took her to Paris. I listened quietly, occasionally letting out envious gasps, until she suddenly said, "By the way, do you know why the Sang family chose me?" I shook my head. "Because of the Danmu." She leaned close to my ear. "I can see some floating text. They give me hints." "Sister, can you see them?" My heart skipped a beat, but I kept my expression calm. "What Danmu?" My sister stared into my eyes for a few seconds, then laughed. "Nothing, I was just joking." She changed the subject. "Are your adoptive parents good to you?" "They're quite good. They're ordinary people, but very kind." I deliberately sighed. "They just can't compare to the Sang family, that's all." My younger sister patted my hand, like a princess bestowing a favor. "Don't worry, when I turn 18 and inherit the trust fund, I'll help you." On the way back to my foster parents' home, I recalled the signs already present in my sister. Bruises on her wrists, red marks on her neck, excessive boasting, and her probing into the live chat. Sang Yuchuan's pathological control had started at least 2 months earlier than in my previous life. My cold smile was reflected in the bus window. The game has just begun, dear sister. On my 18th birthday, my adoptive mother, Aunt Lin, walked into my room holding a gilded envelope, a look of confusion on her face. Tingxue, is this an invitation for you? I took the envelope, and as my fingers brushed against the raised Sang family wax seal, a chill crept up my spine. It was exactly the same moment as in my previous life, down to the golden patterns on the envelope, not a single detail out of place. The Sang family, I feigned surprise. Did Wang Shu send it? Aunt Lin looked at me with concern. You've never mentioned your sister being in such an illustrious family. I opened the envelope to find an invitation handwritten by Lady Sang, inviting me to the Sang family's summer garden party. The closing note specifically mentioned, "Sister misses her elder sister dearly." A lie. Until my death in my previous life, my sister always referred to me as that bitch. Are you going? Aunt Lin asked. For an occasion like that, of course. I smiled as I folded the invitation neatly. After all, she's my sister. On the day of the banquet, I chose a simple white dress, loosely tied my hair, and wore only a pair of pearl earrings. It seems casual, yet every detail has been meticulously designed. The Sang family's estate is even more luxurious than I remember. I take a deep breath and step into this meticulously arranged drama. Miss Yen, this way please. The butler led me through the long corridor, his voice tinged with a subtle hint of disdain. Dozens of guests had already gathered in the garden, the clinking of champagne glasses sounding like some kind of dangerous signal. I spotted my sister at the center of the crowd at a glance. She was wearing a fiery red gown, the diamond necklace I had seen before around her neck. Laughing exaggeratedly, it had been 3 years since we last met, and she had changed a lot. Her hair was permed into big waves, her makeup was exquisite, and every gesture deliberately imitated the elegance of Mrs. Sang. But when she turned and saw me, the look that flashed in her eyes felt familiar. Sister, she opened her arms and walked toward me. You really came. I let her hug me, catching a faint medicinal scent hidden beneath the overpowering perfume, a sedative, the kind Sang Yuchuan often gave me in my past life. Happy birthday, even if it's 3 days late. My sister took a step back to look at me, her gaze lingering on my plain attire. You look very healthy, you've become even more beautiful, I said sincerely. She was indeed beautiful, but like a greenhouse flower exposed to excessive light, there was a kind of fading splendor about her. My sister was about to say something when a commotion came from the direction of the main house. Madame Sang walked out, holding the arm of a tall, thin young man, and the entire hall fell silent. Sang Yuchuan, my nails dug into my palms. 3 years had passed, and he had grown much taller. His pale skin was almost translucent under the sunlight, and his black hair fell to his neck, resembling a delicate doll. Just like in his previous life, his empty gaze fixed on the distance, as if everything around him was irrelevant. Is that young Master Sang? I whispered to my sister on purpose. He looks, don't stare at him. My sister suddenly gripped my wrist with an astonishing force, then realizing her overreaction, she let go and forced a smile. Yuchuan doesn't like being stared at. Mrs. Sang approached the guests with her son. Is this the sister that Wang Shu often mentions? Mrs. Sang smiled and looked me over, her gaze lingering on my white dress for a moment, her eyebrows barely furrowing. Hello, Mrs. Sang. I slightly inclined my head, behaving appropriately but not overly humble. Thank you for the invitation. Sister Xue is dressed so simply and elegantly, my sister interjected, twirling her hair with her fingers. I told you I could lend you a gown. White suits you very well. A voice suddenly interjected. We all froze. Sang Yuchuan was staring at me, his eyes still vacant, but the corner of his mouth twitched slightly, as if trying to smile. Sister's face instantly turned deathly pale. Madame Sang covered her mouth in surprise. Yuchuan, you spoke on your own. A string of bullet comments floated through the air. The young master spoke as soon as he met his sister. This sister is more suitable than the younger one. Does Mrs. Sang regret it now? I pretended not to see it and just gave Sang Yuchuan a restrained smile. Thank you, you have the scent of lavender on you. He spoke again, his voice seeming to come from a great distance. I hate most smells, but this one is acceptable. My sister suddenly stepped between me and Sang Yuchuan. Madam, Isn't it time to cut the cake? Madame Sang looked at me thoughtfully and nodded. Come with me, dear. She led her son away, but Sang Yuchuan glanced back at me 3 times. You did it on purpose. When they were out of earshot, my sister hissed through gritted teeth. I blinked innocently. What? I just like lavender. I took a sachet out of my bag. Want one? I made it myself. My sister slapped the sachet out of my hand. Don't play dumb. What do you know? What the bullet comments told you. I bent down to pick up the sachet, gently brushing off the dust. I don't know what you're talking about, sister. You're too tense. Stay away from him. She leaned close to my ear. Her breathing hurried. He's mine. I spent 3 years getting him to talk. I endured. I pretended not to notice her lapse in composure. Let's go have some cake. Halfway through the banquet, an unexpected turn of events occurred. Sang Yuchuan suddenly curled up on the ground, clutching his head, letting out a silent scream. The guests panicked and backed away, with only Madame Sang kneeling beside him, trying in vain to soothe him. Here it comes again. My sister's face turned pale, but she didn't step forward. Memories of my past life flooded back. I knew this was Sang Yuchuan's sensory overload kicking in. He had severe reactions to certain sounds, lights, or smells. Last time, it took me 6 months to learn how to handle it. I walked through the crowd without hesitation, taking off my coat and draping it over Sang Yuchuan's head to block the harsh lights. Then I took out the earplugs I had prepared earlier from my handbag and gently inserted them into his ears. Breathe, follow me. I held his trembling hand and guided him slowly but firmly. Inhale, exhale. In less than 3 minutes, his trembling gradually subsided. When he pulled his coat down, those pitch-black eyes fixed directly on me, and for the first time, they had focus. Thank you. The entire hall fell silent. Mrs. Sang's gaze at me had completely changed, a mix of surprise, calculation, and a glimmer of hope. And my sister stood not far away, her champagne glass gripped so tightly that her knuckles turned white. The barrage is scrolling wildly. Oh my God, this sister is too good at it. What her sister couldn't do in 3 years, she solved in 3 minutes. Madame Sang must be reconsidering now. I helped Sang Yichuan to his feet and then stepped back gracefully, giving the space back to Madame Sang, acting as if this was just a coincidence, not the result of meticulous preparation. Where did you learn this? My sister appeared beside me at some point, her voice tinged with suppressed anger. My foster mother is a nurse at the community hospital. She's seen similar cases, I replied calmly, taking a sip of champagne. Just lucky. Good luck, she sneered. Do you know how much I spent? Her words were interrupted by the waiter, who accidentally bumped into me, spilling red wine onto my sister's expensive gown. I'm sorry. I quickly apologized, pulling out a tissue to help her wipe it off, while making sure the wine stain spread even more. My sister was on the verge of tears. This is Chanel Haute Couture. You did it on purpose. Let's go to the restroom to take care of it. I pulled her away from the crowd, ignoring her struggles. In the restroom, my sister frantically wiped at the wine stain on her dress in front of the mirror, while I leaned against the sink, watching coldly. Save your effort. It's already soaked in, I said, my voice no longer pretending. She suddenly looked up. What do you really want? Just came to see my dear sister. I smiled. It seems you've had quite an eventful 3 years. My sister's chest heaved violently. Get out. Go back to your mediocre life. This place doesn't belong to you. Is that so? I took a step forward, lowering my voice. Then why hasn't Sang Yuchuan smiled at you in 3 years? Yet he spoke 3 sentences to me. Why do you have a ring on your ring finger, but bruises on your wrist? I gently touched her collar, revealing more of the lingering red marks. What did he do to you? Stand by your bedside in the middle of the night, watching you sleep, or? My sister's face turned deathly pale as she staggered back. How could you know? The bullet comments never mentioned any of this. I don't know anything. I turned on the faucet to wash my hands, just guessing. After all, we share the same blood. If he did that to you, he might do the same to me, right? My sister's lips trembled, but no words came out. Finally, she stormed out, leaving me alone in the bathroom. In the mirror, the corner of my mouth lifted slightly. The first step is complete. Sang Yuchen has taken an interest in me. Mrs. Sang is reassessing, and my sister is already in disarray. I straightened my hair and walked out of the restroom, ready for the next scene. The invitation from the Sang family arrived again 3 weeks after the banquet. This time, It was personally written by Mrs. Sang, inviting me to a weekend afternoon tea party. Mrs. Sang seems to like you very much, Auntie Lynn said as she helped me iron my dress, her eyes filled with worry. But those wealthy families are very complicated. I know, I said, trying on earrings in front of the mirror. It's just a tea party. The tea party was held in the glass conservatory of the Sang family. When I arrived, my sister was sitting to the right of Mrs. Sang. Seeing me, her fingers tightened slightly. Crumpling the napkin, listen to the snow. Sit here, Mrs. Sang pointed to the seat on her left. I pretended not to notice my sister's instantly chilling gaze and gracefully took my seat. Yuchuan has been mentioning you often lately. Mrs. Sang poured tea for me. He rarely takes an interest in people. Is the young master doing well? I asked with concern. At the last banquet, he's fine, my sister interrupted, though he occasionally has mood swings. I've been taking care of him. Lady Sang gave her a meaningful look. Yes, your sister is very attentive, but Tingxue seems to have a special way of calming Yuchuan. A barrage of comments floated through the air. The madam is already comparing. The younger sister is about to lose favor. The young master went to the younger sister's room again last night. I lowered my head to drink tea, hiding the light in my eyes. Sure enough, Sang Yuchuan had already begun his nightly observations. After the tea party, Mrs. Sang suggested I take a tour of the garden. My younger sister wanted to follow along, but was sent away to fetch a shawl. Your sister relies on you a lot, Mrs. Sang suddenly remarked as we walked among the rose bushes, but sometimes it's too much. Yuchuan needs fresh stimulation. I pretended not to understand her hint. My sister has always been very diligent. How have your adoptive parents treated you? She suddenly changed the subject. If you had the chance to live with the Sang family for a long time, would you consider it? The teacup in my hand froze mid-air. This is too sudden, I feigned hesitation, just asking casually. Mrs. Sang patted my hand. There's a piano concert next week, and Yuchuan is really looking forward to it. Why don't you come too? On the way back, I counted Mrs. Sang's anomalies, the early invitation, the overt hints, the coldness towards her sister. She was reevaluating her investment target, just like replacing an unsatisfactory piece of furniture on the day of the concert. I deliberately arrived 5 minutes late. When I entered the Sang family concert hall, the performance had already begun. In the dim light, I saw my sister sitting next to Sang Yuchen, her hand resting on his arm. The teenager stared blankly at the pianist, showing no reaction. I quietly took a seat in the back row. When the third movement began, Sang Yuchuan suddenly started shaking restlessly. His younger sister hurriedly tried to hold him down, but it only made things worse. Just as the commotion was about to escalate, I took out a small spray from my bag and lightly misted the empty seat beside me. The scent of lavender mixed with bergamot slowly spread through the air. Sang Yuchuan, seated several rows away, suddenly stopped his restlessness and turned his head in my direction. In the darkness, his eyes glowed like two ghostly flames. During the intermission, Mrs. Sang immediately found me that spray, a homemade calming spray. I handed it to her, the recipe my foster mother taught me. Amazing, she gripped the spray bottle tightly. Yuchuan has never calmed down so quickly in public before. Can you stay tonight? I'd like to ask about the formula. Her sister stood not far away, her face pale. It would be my pleasure, I said with a smile. The Sang family prepared a guest room for me, right next to her sister's. I checked every corner and found miniature cameras in 3 hidden spots. My sister knocked and entered just as I had changed into my pajamas. Satisfied, she glanced around the room. Much better than that tiny pigeonhole you call home, right? It's lovely. I sat at the dressing table, combing my hair. Which room does Yuchuan sleep in? At the end of the corridor. Her voice suddenly sharpened. Why do you ask? I turned to face her directly, just curious. Does he wander around at night, like what was said in the last barrage? Her fingers twisted together. Not all of those barrages are reliable. Is that so? I put down the comb. Then how did you get the bruise on your wrist? She yanked down her sleeve. It's just that the bathroom faucet is too tight. Don't think you're so great just because Madam is being nice to you. I'm the one who got Yuchen to start talking. Use the method I gave you, I gently reminded. My sister stormed out. I glanced at the clock. It was 11:30. In my previous life, Yu Sang usually began his night stroll around 1 in the morning. I dimmed the lights and pretended to sleep, but I stayed awake. At 1:07, the door handle turned gently. Sang Yuchuan stood at the door in his pajamas, his silhouette outlined in silver by the moonlight. He walked silently to my bedside, lowering his head to gaze at me. I maintained a steady breath, my eyelids twitching slightly as I pretended to sleep. 5 minutes, 10 minutes, his breathing was steady and shallow, like a child observing insects. Suddenly, he reached out as if to touch my hair, but stopped mid-air, turned, and walked away. I heard him stop at the door next to mine and gently push open my sister's door. I quietly followed and peered through the crack in the door, witnessing a chilling scene. Sang Yuchuan stood by my sister's bed, holding a small bottle, collecting strands of hair that had fallen onto her pillow. My sister was sleeping very soundly, clearly having been drugged. The next morning at breakfast, my sister had heavy dark circles under her eyes, while Sang Yuchuan quietly ate his cereal, looking like a harmless young man. "Did you sleep well, Mrs.?" Sang asked me. "Very well," I smiled. "It's just that I seemed to hear footsteps." In the middle of the night, the fork slipped from her sister's hand and clattered onto the plate. "Mrs." Sang's eyes lit up. "Is that so? Yuchuan sometimes sleepwalks. Were you frightened?" "Not at all." I sipped my coffee. "By the way, I've made my decision regarding what you mentioned yesterday, madam. If it would help Yuchuan, I'm willing to move in temporarily." My sister suddenly stood up, knocking over the coffee cup. "Wangshu, Mrs." Sang snapped. "I'm sorry, I'm not feeling well." She stumbled away. "Mrs." Sang turned to me, her smile returning. "Perfect. Why not move in today?" When I returned to my foster parents' home in the afternoon to pack my things, Aunt Lin cried, "So sudden, that young master of the Sang family, it's only temporary." I hugged her. "I'll come back to visit often." Returning to the Sang household, my belongings had been moved into a larger room. Pushing the door open, a strong scent of perfume hit me. My clothes were slashed and scattered across the floor. Skincare products were all overturned, and red liquid was splashed all over the sheets. Bullet comments float through the air. "The little sister has gone crazy. This method is too low level. Madam has already called security to check the surveillance footage." I calmly took photos of the scene, then rang the bell for the maid. "Miss Yen, this is." The maid looked terrified at the chaotic room. "Please inform the madam that I would like to switch back to the guest room from last night," I said softly. "Also, it seems Miss Wangshu left her perfume here." That evening, Madame Sang came in person with the security captain to apologize and suggested that my sister go to Switzerland for rest and relaxation. 3 days after my sister was sent away, Lady Sang arranged for me to be alone with Sang Yuchuan. He likes a quiet environment. Lady Sang handed me a silver bell. "Ring it if you have any problems." In the study, Sang Yuchuan sat by the window drawing, completely unbothered by my presence. I walked over to him and saw that the paper held a delicate sketch of a rose. "You drew that beautifully," I said softly. He continued doodling. As if he hadn't heard, I noticed a fresh scratch on his left wrist. "Did Wangshu do that?" I asked tentatively. His pencil paused for a second, then continued moving. That tiny reaction told me I had guessed correctly. I sat down next to him, took out my sketchbook, and started drawing as well. Half an hour later, I accidentally rolled the eraser over to his side. Sang Yuchuan stared at the eraser for a long time before suddenly saying, "You're not afraid of me." It wasn't a question. I looked up and met his dark, bottomless eyes. "Why should I be afraid? They all are." He tilted his head, "especially after they find out I observe them." I deliberately showed a confused expression. "Observation, observation at night." His voice suddenly fluctuated. "Wang Shu screamed when she found out, but you pretended to be asleep." My blood instantly froze. He knew I was awake that night. Thunder rumbled in the distance, and sang. Yuchuan suddenly covered his ears and curled up. I immediately took out my noise-canceling headphones and sketchbook from my bag. He grabbed the headphones and put them on, his breathing gradually stabilizing. Then he picked up my sketchbook and flipped through it, stopping at a page where I had drawn the orphanage chapel from memory. "You've been there?" he asked, his voice muffled through the headphones. "My sister and I grew up there. She hated it there." Sang Yichuan said, "But you liked it. You liked heights. When you were a child, you often hid in the bell tower." My fingers trembled slightly. How could he know? I had never told anyone about this, as if reading my thoughts. He pulled a strange smile. It's written in Wangshu's diary. I've collected a lot about the two of you. He opened the desk drawer and took out a thick folder. Inside were photos, clippings, and even my report card from the orphanage. On top was the most recent one, a picture of me reading in the yard of my foster parents' home. You've been following me. I tried to keep my voice steady. Observing, he corrected, like observing insects. You sisters are particularly interesting. At the end of the folder were a few photocopies of my sister's diary, dated recently. One passage is circled in red. Failed again today. Yuchuan still refuses to speak unless I follow that damn method. My sister's note saved me and ruined me. Sometimes I really wish she had gone to the Sang family back then. No, I should say, I wish she would disappear forever. The thunderstorm stopped, and Sang Yuchuan suddenly took off his headphones, leaning close to my ear. The way you sisters compete is quite interesting. His breath was cold, like a snake sliding across the skin. At that moment, I was certain this seemingly fragile young man was 100 times more dangerous than his mother. That evening, Mrs. Sang hosted a small tea party to showcase my soothing skills. Several of the Sang family's longtime friends gathered in the living room, while Sang Yuchuan played the role of a quiet, handsome young man. I noticed that the tea served by the maid had a strange taste, and my cup was more bitter than the others. Although my sister is in Switzerland, her influence remains. I pretended to take a few sips, then, suddenly, felt dizzy and requested to leave early. Back in my room, I spat the tea into the bathroom and quietly followed the maid who brought the tea. Instead of going to the kitchen, she went to the basement. The soundproof door of the basement was not closed properly, and I heard the maid's voice. He's already drunk, he'll fall asleep within half an hour. Then came my sister's voice. Good, give me the key. Yu Chen promised to take me to see his collection room tonight. Footsteps approached the door, and I quickly hid in the shadows. My sister and the maid hurried away without noticing me. Only then did I notice there was a metal door next to the basement. Back in the guest room, I found an extra note under the pillow. Stay away from everything of mine. Next time it won't be sleeping pills. I burned the note and lay in bed thinking, what's in Sang Yuchuan's collection room? Why does this generation's Sang family have a mysterious basement? How much does the sister really know? At 2 in the morning, my door was gently pushed open again, but this time, it wasn't Sang Yuchuan. My sister stood by my bed, holding a pair of scissors. I know you're awake, she whispered, your breathing is off. I opened my eyes and saw her red, swollen eyes, clearly having cried. How was Switzerland? Shut up. She raised the scissors. You took everything from me, the lady, the trust fund, and now even Yu Chen. He never belonged to anyone. I slowly sat up. You saw that folder, didn't you? We were just his collectibles. My sister's hands trembled slightly. What do you know? I spent 3 years. 3 years enduring his perversions, standing by my bedside in the middle of the night, collecting my hair. Even, she suddenly stopped, pulling up her sleeve to reveal a dense cluster of needle marks on her arm. He said it was to help me relax, but it was really about control. I had known about these things all along, but seeing the physical evidence still made me sick. Then why did you come back? I asked softly. Because I have nothing left. The scissors flashed with a cold light. Madam is preparing to amend the trust documents, transferring the portion originally meant for me to you, and Yuchuan. He said today that he wants to collect you. My heart skipped a beat. My sister suddenly lunged forward, the scissors aimed straight at my face. In the chaos, I grabbed her wrist and slammed it against the wall, and the scissors clattered to the ground. Footsteps sounded outside the door, and my sister quickly picked up the scissors and hid in the wardrobe. Sang Yuchuan pushed the door open and walked in, wearing pajamas and holding a syringe in his hand. I heard a noise, he said, scanning the room and his gaze stopping on my disheveled hair. Wang Shu is here. It wasn't a question. I remained silent. He suddenly smiled, and the smile sent chills down my spine. The way you sisters fight is truly beautiful, like two cats fighting. A faint sound came from the wardrobe. Sang Yuchen walked towards it, but I stepped in front of him first. I have a question. Why does the Sang family have a basement with a biohazard sign? Sang Yuchen's smile froze. The wardrobe door burst open, and his sister rushed out, colliding with him. They both fell to the ground, and the syringe rolled to my feet. I picked it up and saw the label that read, X. 37, seizing the opportunity, his sister made a dash for the door, turning back to shout at me, "You think being reborn means you've already won. So does he." The door slammed shut, leaving me and Sang Yuchen staring at each other. "The third time," he said softly, his voice suddenly unusually clear, "this is the third time we've played this game, you and Wang Shu. It's always like this. One wins, one dies, but this time, I want to see a different ending." My blood froze instantly. He knew I was reborn, and this is not the first cycle. The bullet screen suddenly erupts. Oh my god, is this a reincarnation setting? Run, female lead, run. The first 2 lifetimes, my sister died. This time, I must break the cycle. Sang Yuchuan picked up the syringe and gave me an innocent smile. "It's your turn, Tingxue. Would you like to join my collection?" The third time, I forced myself to stay calm, my nails digging deeply into my palm. Sang Yuchuan's words felt like a bucket of ice water poured over my head. He tilted his head, revealing a childlike, innocent smile. "The first time, you won. Wang Shu set fire and killed all of you at the full moon banquet. The second time, she won. You jumped off the building." He gently stroked my hair. "This time, I want to see a different ending." My throat tightened. Those bullet comments were telling the truth. This is an endless cycle, and Sang Yuchuan, this seemingly fragile autistic teenager, turned out to be the manipulator. "Why?" I struggled to utter the word. "Because I was bored." He stood up and extended his hand toward me. "Come, let me show you my collection." I hesitated for a moment but still followed him out of the room. The Sang residence was eerily quiet late at night, the corridor resembling a tunnel leading to hell. Sang Yuchen led me to the metal door in the basement marked with a biohazard symbol, where he entered the password. Behind the door was a spacious room, its walls covered with photographs, each stage of my sister and me, from the orphanage to the present. Some photos I've never seen before, me sleeping at my foster parents' house, my sister smoking on the balcony of a Swiss hotel, and even photos of us as infants. "This is my observation room." Sang Yuchen's voice suddenly became fluent, completely unlike his usual wooden tone. "Since I was 6 years old, I've been collecting everything about you." In the center of the room was a glass cabinet, neatly arranged with various items, my sister's hair clips, my homework, meal tickets from the orphanage. The most chilling was an eyeball preserved in a small bottle. "That's Aunt Lee's," Sang Yuchen explained as he followed my gaze. "She tried to stop me from observing Wang Shu. In the first cycle, you succeeded in making me speak, and my mother arranged for you to marry me. But Wang Shu, out of jealousy towards you, poured gasoline at our child's full moon banquet." "What about the second time?" My voice trembled. "That time, Wang Shu used my method to drive you to the brink of a mental breakdown." He opened the drawer, took out a bottle of pills, X37, "It can induce hallucinations. She added a little bit to your tea each time, until you jumped off the top floor of the Sang residence." I finally understood why this generation of the Sang family had that mysterious basement. Sang Yuchen retained the memories of each cycle and continuously refined his game. "This time, I wanted to see you work together." He suddenly leaned close to me, his breath brushing against my face. "But it seems it's still the same old story, sisters turning against each other. How beautiful." I forced myself to look directly into his eyes. "What if I don't play this game? Then Wang Shu will die a horrible death." He smiled and took out a phone, the screen showing my sister unconscious in some room. "She's already taken a sufficient dose of the drug, and only I have the antidote." Back in the guest room, I couldn't sleep all night. Just before dawn, the phone suddenly vibrated, a text message from an unknown number. "Switzerland is a lie. I'm locked in the East Wing's secret room. Save me." I deleted the message and looked out the window at the pale sky. Sang Yuchuan was right. This was indeed the third cycle, but there was one thing he got wrong. "This time, I will rewrite the ending." At breakfast, Mrs. Sang announced good news. "Listen, Snow, I've talked with the lawyer. If you agree to get engaged to Yuchen, you can immediately receive 5 million in trust funds." I pretended to be pleasantly surprised. "It's so sudden." "It's not sudden." Mrs. Sang patted my hand. "Yuchen needs you." As for Wang Shu, she frowned. "The child is mentally unstable and needs rest." I sipped my coffee to hide a cold smile. "Can I consider it for a few days?" "Of course." Mrs. Sang smiled. "Just let me know by the weekend." After leaving the restaurant, I Headed straight to the east wing, according to my memories from my past life. There were indeed several hidden chambers there. I found the mechanism behind a portrait and pushed open the secret door. My sister was curled up on a small bed in the corner, her face pale, with an 4-tube connected to her wrist. Seeing me, she suddenly sat up. How did you, shoo? I signaled her to be quiet, quickly checking the 4 bag. The label read, Dose 3, he comes every day to increase the dose, my sister said. Weekly, says I need adjustments because I'm not behaving. I pulled out the needle and helped her sit up. Can you walk? Why are you helping me? She looked at me warily. Because Sang Yuchuan is a madman, I said briefly, and he knows we've been reborn. My sister's pupils contracted. He told you about the cycle of rebirth. My heart jolted. You know about it too. After the second cycle, I retained fragments of memories. She trembled as she spoke, but not as complete as his, I thought. It was just a nightmare. Footsteps echoed in the hallway, and we immediately fell silent. After the footsteps faded away, I slipped a note to my sister. Tomorrow at noon, escape following this route. Go to this address and find Aunt Lin, your foster mother. My sister frowned. Will she help me? There's a password on the back of the note. Tell her I gave it to you, and she'll understand. My sister clenched the note tightly and suddenly grabbed my hand. Sister, I'm truly sorry about the second cycle. Save it, I said, pulling my hand back. We can act like loving sisters after we escape. After leaving the secret chamber, I went straight to Sang Yuchen's study. He was painting and smiled when he looked up at me. Have you made your decision? I need to ensure Wangshu's safety, I said, looking directly into his eyes. If I agree to the engagement, you must let her go. Sure, he agreed readily. She's already useless to me anyway. He took out a small box from the drawer. An engagement ring. Mom has already contacted the media. We'll announce it this weekend. I took the box. Inside was a ring set with a ruby, exactly the same as in my previous life. Oh, by the way, he suddenly said as I turned to leave, don't even think about playing any tricks. This time, I've prepared a special ending. That afternoon, the Sang household suddenly stirred with commotion. My sister has disappeared. Mrs. Sang is furious, while Sang Yuchuan quietly paints, occasionally looking up to give me a meaningful smile. I know he let my sister go. This is part of the game. On the day the engagement was announced, the Sang family held a grand evening banquet. I wore the red gown chosen by Madame Sang, entertaining guests like a marionette. Sang Yuchuan stood beside me, playing the role of a quiet, beautiful young man, but only I knew the twistedness beneath his calm surface. Congratulations, Tingxue, a noble woman said, taking my hand. From the orphanage to becoming the young mistress of the Sang family, it's truly a fairy tale leap. I smiled and thanked her, my gaze catching a familiar figure in the corner. My sister. She wore a hat and a mask, but I would never mistake those eyes. What did she come for? Halfway through the banquet, the lights suddenly dimmed, and the large screen lit up. Everyone thought it was the engagement photo display, until the screen showed Sang Yuchen's collection room, and he said to the camera, this time, I want to see a different ending. The room erupted in an uproar. Mrs. Sang screamed for someone to turn off the video, but it was too late. The guests had already seen the perverse photos on the wall and the bottle containing a human eye. In the chaos, a hand grabbed my wrist. Go. It was my sister. We escaped to the garden amidst the confusion, and she handed me a USB drive, all the illegal evidence of the Sang family, human experiments, financial fraud, and even murder. Are you crazy? I widened my eyes. How did you get this? The address you gave me, she said. Urgently, Aunt Lin took me to meet Uncle Chen's student, and they helped me sneak into Sang Yuchuan's secret computer room. In the distance, shouts and the sound of police sirens could be heard. My sister pushed me. Hurry up, the police will be here any minute. What about you? I have to go back, she said with a bleak smile. He injected me with something, and without the antidote, I'll die. But the computer showed that the antidote formula is in one of the ingredients in your sachet. I suddenly remembered that in my past life, Sang Yuchuan indeed had a strange reaction to a certain type of special lavender. I pulled out the sachet I always carried with me from my collar. There's some in here. My sister took the sachet and suddenly her expression changed drastically. Be careful. I turned around and saw Sang Yuchuan standing a few steps away, holding a scalpel in his hand. Under the moonlight, His eyes gleamed terrifyingly bright. How touching, he whispered softly, sisters. United, what a pity. He shook the syringe in his hand. This time, I've prepared a new ending. My younger sister suddenly rushed forward, placing herself between me and Sang Yuchuan. The scalpel sliced across her arm, and blood immediately gushed out. Run, she shouted at me. There are more plans on his computer. For the first time, Sang Yuchuan's expression cracked. You ate. No, that would neutralize the toxicity of X-37. Seizing the opportunity, I grabbed the wrought iron chair from the garden and swung it at him. He staggered back and was pinned to the ground by the arriving police. Yan Tingxue, this isn't over. The third cycle has just begun. The police car took away Sang Yuchen and Mrs. Sang. When the ambulance arrived, the sister had already fallen into a coma. The lavender worked. The doctor told me, she will be fine. In the hospital corridor, I met Aunt Lin and Uncle Chen. Behind them stood several prosecutors and police officers. Child, it's all over. Aunt Lin hugged me, tears streaming down her face. I looked at my sister in the hospital ward and whispered, no, this is just the beginning. 3 months later, the court sentenced Sang Yuchen to mandatory treatment in a psychiatric hospital on multiple charges, and Mrs. Sang was sentenced to 15 years in prison. The Sang family empire collapsed, and the media extensively reported on the dark secrets behind the seemingly glamorous facade of this wealthy family. After my sister was discharged from the hospital, we returned to our foster parents' home. The full moon banquet that had once only appeared in my nightmares was safely navigated this time. You knew all along, didn't you? One morning at breakfast, my sister suddenly asked me about the cycle of rebirth. I set down my coffee cup. I only remember some fragments from my past life. It wasn't until Sang Yuchuan pointed it out that I realized it was a cycle. My sister asked in disbelief, the second cycle, did I really drive you to jump off a building? It doesn't matter anymore. I handed her a document. Take a look at this. She flipped open the file, her eyes gradually widening. A coffee shop. We're opening a coffee shop, using part of the compensation from the Sang family. I smiled. You've always said you wanted to be a shop owner, haven't you? Tears from my sister fell onto the document. Sister, why are you helping me? I treated you so badly. Because this time it's my turn to see a different ending, I whispered softly. On opening day, our coffee shop, Rebirth, was packed with customers. My sister was busy at the front counter, her smile so bright it seemed impossible she had endured such darkness. Standing in the corner, watching it all, I suddenly noticed an unfamiliar bouquet of black roses on the flower stand by the door. The bouquet had no signature, only a card. Round 3 begins. I looked up and scanned my surroundings, catching a glimpse of a tall, slender figure across the street. My heart skipped a beat, but when I blinked, the spot was already empty. Sister, come help, the younger sister called out from behind the counter. I took a deep breath and walked over to her. Whether it was an illusion or not, this time we were prepared. After hearing the first story above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Next, there is another similar story. Let's continue to see. My younger daughter's boyfriend is a fugitive criminal. They absolutely must not be together. Upon hearing this, I immediately ordered my sister to break up. Who would have thought that my sister eloped overnight, only to be killed in a car accident on the road, with both of them dying on the spot? While I was overwhelmed with grief, I heard my mother's inner thoughts. Daughter, run, your husband wants to kill you. Don't drink that bowl of porridge. I looked up in shock as my husband was holding a bowl of pregnancy-nourishing porridge, ready to feed it to me. I was so scared that I rushed to my best friend's house overnight and immediately filed for divorce. Unexpectedly, my mother grew even more anxious. Silly girl, you went to the wrong place. Your best friend is the one your husband is cheating with. She's the one behind all these devious schemes. Like an ant on a hot pan, I hurriedly ran to the police station to seek help. At this moment, my mother suddenly screamed in her heart, child, quickly hide in the alley on the right. Your husband is chasing you with a knife. Run. Without thinking, I hid in the alley, only to encounter the serial killer who was also hiding there. I was brutally tortured and killed. When I opened my eyes again, I had returned to the day when I could hear my mother's thoughts. I won't. I'm going to marry her. Sister, please, don't lock me up. Okay. The door was being pounded with loud bangs, and inside came the familiar voice of my younger sister. Zhao Lure. I turned my head stiffly and saw my mother, who had suffered a stroke and was partially paralyzed. In the living room, she was looking at me with a face full of concern. Suddenly, her inner voice echoed in my ears, Lure's boyfriend is a fugitive criminal, I must not let the two of them be together. Sigh, how should I break this news to my eldest daughter? Hearing the familiar inner voice, I finally dared to believe that I had been reborn to the day in my previous life when I first heard my mother's inner thoughts. In my previous life, after hearing my mother's inner thoughts, I believed them without a doubt. I immediately acted according to her demands, and I discovered that only I could hear her inner thoughts. I was startled by my mother's thoughts and immediately locked my sister Zhao Lure away, forbidding them from continuing their relationship. After all, her boyfriend was a fugitive murderer. Who knew if Lure might be in danger? But who would have thought that my sister would sneak out through the window in the middle of the night, attempting to elope with her boyfriend? The next time I heard news of her was from the police. Are you Zhao Lure's sister? She was in a car accident at the Wumian intersection and has passed away. Please come to the hospital to claim her body. When I saw my sister again, she was already broken into 7 or 8 pieces, barely recognizable as a person. I was overwhelmed with grief, and it nearly caused me to miscarry due to severe bleeding. Now, hearing my sister's strong and lively voice, even though she's scolding me, I still feel incredibly happy. Without a word, I immediately unlocked the door and let my sister out. If you want to be together, then be together, but you have to listen to your sister. Take it slow, the bride price and the 5 golds are still necessary, right? If you want to marry, then marry. Your sister will never stand in the way of your happiness. Zhao Lure, who was about to burst into tears, froze, completely unaware of what was happening. Sis, you're just agreeing to it. In the wheelchair, Mom tilted her face to one side, struggling to make muffled sounds while shaking her body vigorously. Inner voice, Lure's boyfriend is a dismemberment murderer. He will definitely kill Lure. Hurry and take your sister to escape. I turned a deaf ear, calmly draping a blanket over Mom. Mom, why are you shaking so much? Are you cold? Mom stared at me with wide eyes, shaking her head slightly. Woo-woo. Inner voice, no, don't let Lure out. You must keep her locked up. My husband, Cheng Ruobo, didn't understand the situation. Honey, weren't you just forbidding them from being together? Why did you let your sister out again? She's still so young. Do you really agree? Zhao Lure crossed her arms, looking at me with a vigilant expression. Sis, you're not going to go back on your word, are you? I really do like him. Fearing that my sister might sneak away like she did in my previous life, I quickly tried to calm her down. How could that be? I've always cared for you since we were little. I was just teasing you earlier to see if your bond was truly unbreakable. How could I bear to tear you two apart? My mother, who had suffered a stroke, was so furious and overwhelmed with emotion that she trembled uncontrollably. You're going to harm your sister. Her boyfriend is a dismembering murderer who specifically dates single girls, then tricks them away and kills them. You'll be the one to kill your sister with your own hands. You'll regret this. Regret. My heart sank heavily, thinking of my sister's mangled body from my past life. I cried my heart out several times. At the time, I stubbornly believed that I was the one who had caused her death. If I hadn't been pregnant with a child at the time, I would have gladly followed her. But now, I keenly sensed something amiss. In my past life, I clearly followed my mother's inner voice. So why did things only get worse and worse, ultimately leading me down a path of no return? But if Mom was lying to me, I couldn't figure out why. Why would she do that? Dad passed away long ago, and my sister and I are the only children Mom has left. She still depends on us to take care of her in her old age. How could Mom bear to harm us? And then there's my husband. I shifted my gaze from my mother to Cheng Ruobo. Mom said my husband wants to kill me, but he has always been so good to me, and I have never done anything to wrong him. Even if he has fallen for another woman and wants a divorce, he could have just brought it up openly. I would never have disagreed. So why does he have to go so far as to want me dead? What puzzles me even more is that after I ran away, Cheng Ruobo actually chased after me with a knife. If it weren't for my past life, where I personally witnessed him holding the knife, I would never have believed it. 5 years of dating, 2 years of marriage. Why, I first calmed my sister down. You've been living on campus, and it's been a while since I've had a proper chat with you. Sleep with me tonight, and let's have a good talk. I miss you." Seeing Zhao Luo obediently agree, I breathed a sigh of relief. At least tonight, Zhao Luo wouldn't meet the same tragic fate as in my previous life, dying in a car accident far from home. As for whether her boyfriend is really a fugitive murderer, I'll have someone investigate it thoroughly starting tomorrow. At that moment, Cheng Ruobo came out of the kitchen carrying a bowl of freshly cooked porridge. At the same time, my mother's anxious thoughts reached my ears. "Sweetie, don't drink that porridge. Your husband put abortion pills in it. If you drink it, you'll suffer a massive hemorrhage and both you and the baby will die." I turned around to see my mother looking at me with deep concern. She couldn't speak or move, only desperately trembling, looking at me with pleading eyes. Woo-woo, inner voice. "My poor daughter, how tragic. The man by her side is actually a beast, willing to do such inhuman things just to be with his mistress. Listen to your mother. Quickly take your sister and run." I stared intently at Cheng Ruobo's face. Handsome and dignified in appearance, he looks gentle, completely hiding the fact that he wants to kill me and the child in my womb. A mistress, I can check Cheng Ruobo's phone anytime I want, and throughout the entire pregnancy, he has been by my side, never leaving for a moment. How could he possibly have time to find a mistress? Cheng Ruobo scooped up a spoonful of porridge and slowly brought it to my lips. "Darling, I've been simmering this chicken and yam porridge all afternoon. Have a taste, it's good for the baby." "Okay." His eyes brimmed with tenderness, but the thoughts echoing in my ears sent a chill down my spine. Could there be an abortion drug in this porridge? Mom's voice grew increasingly desperate. Don't drink, my dear. Your husband is trying to harm you." I instinctively pushed Cheng Ruobo's hand away. Cheng Ruobo was taken aback. "What's wrong, honey? Didn't you say last night that you wanted to drink porridge? Hurry up and have some. I've been stewing it all afternoon." I composed myself, returning to my usual demeanor, and apologized softly. "Suddenly, I've lost my appetite. You drink it for me, right now. I don't trust anyone, including my husband." Cheng Ruobo was taken aback for a moment, placing the porridge on the table without drinking it himself. "Honey, what would you like for dinner then? I'll make something else for you," I asked without showing any emotion. "Aren't you going to have some porridge?" Cheng Ruobo shook his head gently. "I don't feel like it. I don't have much of an appetite either." I silently took a step back. "Just make your own portion for dinner. I plan to go to Manning's place tonight and stay for a few days before coming back." "Sure, Manning is my best friend from college." Cheng Ruobo frowned, a flicker of barely noticeable tension crossing his face. If I hadn't been staring at his face the whole time, I might have missed that moment. "No, you can't go." "Why?" Seeing my face full of tension, Cheng Ruobo immediately regained his usual gentle expression. You're still carrying a little baby in your belly. It's not safe to live outside. If you want to go out to relax, I can accompany you. There's no need to go out alone." However, I remembered the way he chased after me with a knife in my previous life. Did he actually see the killer in the alley and want to protect me with the knife, or was he really here to kill me? Until I figure out the truth, I can never truly let my guard down around my husband. I won't trust anyone but myself. I clung to my husband's arm, acting coquettishly as usual. "I just want to go hang out with Manning. I'm pregnant, so you have to prioritize my feelings, right? Besides, Manning has been my best friend since college. What's there to worry about? Don't you trust me?" Cheng Ruobo still wanted to say something more. Suddenly, a heavy thud echoed from the distance. Turning around, I saw my mother had fallen from her wheelchair and was desperately banging her head against the floor. Cheng Ruobo hurried over and quickly helped her back into the wheelchair. "Mother-in-law, what's wrong?" I calmly stepped forward to take the wheelchair, intending to push my mother into the guest bedroom. At that moment, however, my mother's hand was tightly gripping Cheng Ruobo's wrist, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't pry it open. Just as I was about to use more force, Cheng Ruobo leaned down closer to my mother. "Mother-in-law, do you want to say something? Write it on paper." Mom gave a grateful smile, picked up the pen, and began writing with trembling hands. "Take me with you. I don't want to leave Nan Nan." The inner voice echoed once more. "You did the right thing, sweetheart. Get away from this murderer. If you don't drink the porridge, your husband will definitely find other ways to harm you. Take me with you. I'll find a way to protect you. Otherwise, you'll definitely die." I stared at my mother intently. "Why are you haunting me like a ghost? Is she Afraid that I won't be able to hear her thoughts next and won't follow her plan, I immediately refused. No, Mom, your body needs rest. It's better to stay quietly at home. I steeled my heart and prepared to lock my mother in the bedroom instead. My mother pitifully grabbed Cheng Ruobo's hand, her eyes filled with extreme grievance. Ah, inner voice, baby, don't leave mommy. Cheng Ruobo looked troubled, his face full of difficulty. He looked at Mom, then at me, and finally made up his mind. Why don't you take Mom with you first? I have to work overtime at the company tonight, so it won't be convenient for me to take care of your mother at home. I glanced at my mother, who was partially paralyzed, and nodded reluctantly. Since things had come to this point, if I didn't agree, I probably wouldn't be able to go out tonight. Having a legitimate reason to go out was naturally better than sneaking around like before. Otherwise, if I sneak away like in my previous life, I might end up being chased down again. Better to deceive others first. Mom smiled at me ingratiatingly, inner voice. My back cushion is too hard, so uncomfortable, it hurts so much. If only Nan could hear me, she could help me change to a softer cushion. I didn't want to pay attention at first, but then a thought suddenly crossed my mind. Mom, I think this cushion is too hard. Let me find a softer one for you to replace it. Mom nodded happily. I first carried Mom into the bedroom. Mom, I'm going downstairs to buy a softer cushion. I'll be back in 2 minutes. The next second, I closed the door and turned to order Cheng Ruobo. Could you help Mom go downstairs and buy a softer cushion? She seems to be sitting uncomfortably. Cheng Ruobo nodded and obediently went downstairs to the store. Only after personally seeing Cheng Ruobo change the mat did I carry my mother out of the bedroom. Mom, I got you a new mat. Is it much more comfortable? As soon as I finished speaking, my mother rolled off the wheelchair as if she had been pricked. At the same time, she let out a miserable cry. Everyone looked at her in confusion. Mother pointed shakily at the cushion. I suddenly understood and flipped the cushion over following her gesture. The next second, I pulled out a blood-stained pin from inside the cushion. Mom's inner voice immediately followed. Sweetie, why are you deliberately mistreating Mom? I've been so good to you since you were little, worked so hard to raise you, and when I'm sick, you treat me like this. Mom kept whimpering, pointed to her own back, and tears glistened in her eyes, as if she had suffered a great injustice, exactly the same as what happened in my previous life, except that in my previous life, it was me who changed the cushion for her, but in this life, it was Cheng Ruobo. In my previous life, I thought it was because a decorative pin on my clothes accidentally fell off while I was changing the mattress, hurting my mother, so I felt particularly guilty towards her, to the point that later, whatever my mother said, I believed it to be true, but now, I immediately pretended to be furious and threw the cushion directly at Cheng Ruobo. How dare you harm my mother, hiding a pin in the cushion? If you don't want to take care of my mother, just say it. Why torture her like this? Cheng Ruobo was at a loss for words, looking utterly bewildered. I didn't do it. This cushion is brand new from the store downstairs. I just unpacked it and put it on. I really didn't do anything. My mother, who had been wailing uncontrollably, was also stunned. Her crying abruptly stopped as she stood there in a daze. I held up the blood-stained pin high, unwavering in my conviction. Then how do you explain this? From start to finish, only you and my mom have touched this cushion. Are you trying to say that my mom deliberately stabbed herself with a pin? I pressed forward step by step, my face flushed with anger. Tell me, do you look down on my mother as a burden and not want to support her in her old age? Cheng Ruobo choked, flustered and panicked. I really didn't mean that. Your mother is your own flesh and blood. How could I look down on her? Taking care of her is my responsibility. I pretended not to believe it. My sister and I were both in the room, and only you and my mom had contact with the cushion. So who else could it be? Was there anyone else in the room, thinking of something? Cheng Ruobo's expression stiffened, and he looked at my mom in disbelief. Mother-in-law, did you deliberately set me up? Why, haven't I taken good enough care of you? Seeing the situation take a dramatic turn, my mother shook her head even more vigorously, yet she couldn't speak, only shaking her head desperately, making sounds with her mouth. Her inner voice echoed frantically in her ears. No, I didn't frame you. I don't know what happened either. I pretended to be heartbroken, pulling my sister back. Mom is the most important person to me, and I absolutely won't allow anyone to harm her. Since you can't explain this clearly, let the police investigate it. I sent the pre-edited police report text message with a single click. Cheng Ruobo's expression stiffened. You don't believe me. I really didn't mistreat my mother-in-law. Mother-in-law, why are you deliberately trying to harm me? My mother nervously shrank her neck, looking at me with a resentful gaze. I wiped away the non-existent tears. It's not that I don't believe you, but after all, this is my mother. This matter must be thoroughly investigated. The police station is right next to the residential area, and the police arrived at the door in less than 5 minutes. Cheng Ruobo was brought into the police station with a face full of unwillingness. As soon as he left, my sorrowful expression immediately turned into a blank face. Cheng Ruobo would have to spend at least one night in the police station. One night should be enough time for me to take my sister and escape, right? My mother stood there in a daze, unable to snap out of it for a long time. It seemed like she had been hit hard in my past life. When she framed me, my mother never once showed such a guilty expression on her face, but when the target of the frame-up was switched to my husband, my mother's expression turned unusually grim. I crouched down, smiling as I looked at her. Mom, I drove away the person who hurt you. Aren't you happy? My mother forced an awkward smile, accompanied by the sound of her inner thoughts. Sweetheart, Mom is overjoyed, but that pin really wasn't put there by your son-in-law. Could you help Mom clear things up? I turned a deaf ear. Just moments ago, Mom was saying Cheng Ruobo wanted to harm me, and now she's turning around and asking me to explain things to him. It's utterly baffling. Could it be thinking of something? My eyes narrowed slightly, and a cold smile curled at the corner of my mouth. A wonderful idea suddenly occurred to me. Mom, I'll take you away right now. Please don't worry. I asked my sister to push the wheelchair outside and wait while I went to the bedroom to get the household register, ID card, and property ownership certificate. But as I picked up the property deed, a note suddenly fluttered out from the booklet. I picked up the note in confusion, and it clearly read, "Never believe my inner thoughts," from Mom. As soon as I turned my head, my mother suddenly appeared at the door, staring straight at me with her eyes. Mom, I was instantly startled and instinctively took 3 steps back. Mom, what are you doing here? My sister hurried to the bedroom and pushed the wheelchair away. I wiped the cold sweat from my forehead. I told you to push Mom downstairs. My sister pouted with a look of grievance. I just really had to go to the bathroom. It was only a minute. Who knew Mom would move herself here? I didn't expect it either. I stepped forward to carefully examine Mom's body. It was still as stiff as ever, unable to move. I have no idea how she managed to get to the doorway. Forget it, let's just go for now. It was already 8 o'clock in the evening, and the sky was completely dark. I raised my hand to hail a taxi. My sister, hearing the address I gave, asked in confusion, "Aren't we going to Sister Manning's house? Why are we going to a hotel?" After much thought, I still feel it's not safe at home, due to the influence of the inner voice. I can no longer fully trust my husband and best friend, and recently, escaped criminals have been lingering near the nearest police station. Therefore, I specifically booked a hotel in the completely opposite direction. One is in the south of the city, the other in the north. The criminals wouldn't cross districts to chase us here, would they? This hotel is within 100 meters of a police station, making it much safer than staying at home. I casually explained, "Oh, Manning's place isn't tidy, and it wouldn't be convenient for the 3 of us to stay there, so we might as well just book a hotel." My sister looked confused. Mom let out another muffled cry, inner voice, "Whatever you do, don't go looking for your best friend. She's the one your husband is cheating with, and she's the mastermind behind everything. Don't trust her. If you go, all 3 of us will be caught. Run, get out of this hotel, otherwise, you'll really regret it." I turned a deaf ear. I booked the hotel using my sister's ID and phone number, without telling anyone at all. How could anyone know I'm hiding here? Besides, the hotel has a front desk and security, which is more useful than the 60-year-old security guard in the residential area. I don't understand. I'm her daughter, so why does she always want to kill me? What does that note mean? Could it be that Mom can't control her inner thoughts? I pondered for a moment, watching my mother twist her mouth and squint her eyes as she protected her body. Yet her eyes were filled with unwillingness. A sudden flash of insight struck me, and I suddenly understood. So that's how it is. I get it now, all the way. My mother's inner thoughts never stopped, constantly chattering in my ear. one moment crying and pleading, the next moment threatening me with a miserable fate, then screaming and cursing. It seems like Mom wants me to follow her plans just like in my previous life, but I casually scratch my ear, pretending not to hear these noises. Hello, sweetie, can you hear Mommy? Why aren't you answering me? I know you can hear me, Otherwise, why would you have changed my blanket? You must be able to hear me, right? How could you not hear me? Clearly, no matter how much my mother tries to break through my defenses, I steadily follow my own plans, completely ignoring her. During this time, the police station staff called to inform me that Cheng Ruobo could be bailed out, but I immediately refused. Before thoroughly investigating Cheng Ruobo's background, it's better for him to remain quietly detained. For some reason, Sher Manning also suddenly called me, Cheng Ruobo suddenly called me to bail him out just now, saying you misunderstood him or something. I don't really get it either. Did you two have a fight? Why did he end up in jail? Couples fight at the head of the bed but make up at the foot, right? If your husband really gets detained, it won't be good for your child's future civil service exams either. Why don't you just bail him out? What exactly happened between you two? Considering that Sher Manning might also have issues, so while I said I'd go to the police station later, I actually had no intention of dealing with it at all. I even made a special call to the police station, posing as the person who filed the report, insisting that there be no settlement and that he must be held for a full 7 days before being released. The hotel arrived quickly. I helped my mother out of the car and was about to head into the hotel. Suddenly, my mother showed an expression of extreme terror, as if she had seen something truly horrifying. The next second, a frantic inner voice erupted in my ear. Sweetie, don't go into the hotel. There's a murderer hiding inside, waiting for you in one of the rooms. Whatever you do, don't go in. I don't have time to explain everything now, but you must do exactly as I say, or all 3 of us are going to die for real. Right now, take your sister and hide in the alley next to us. This path is a shortcut to the police station. You can get there in just 1 minute. Go, now. Don't take Mom with you. You won't get far with me. Go protect our sister and call the police. Run. But I turned to my sister and said, the room is already booked. Just give them your phone number to check in. Go wait for me in the room. I'll be there soon. My sister happily went upstairs, looking completely carefree. I'm sure my sister really can't hear Mom's inner thoughts. I smiled and gently stroked Mom's face. Mom, let me take you for a walk to help with digestion. You must be feeling carsick, right? As I spoke, I slowly pushed my mother into the alley. Mother's eyes filled with terror, and the fear on her face grew more and more intense. Inner voice, what are you doing? Why are you pushing Mom in? No, let me go. I don't want to go in. Stop now. I'm telling you to stop. Seeing that she couldn't persuade me, Mom turned back to look at me pitifully, tears welling up in her eyes. Inner voice, sweetie, just take your sister and go. Don't worry about me. I'm in a wheelchair. You won't get far. If you take me with you, just take your sister and go. Looking at Mom's terrified expression, I suddenly felt a sense of satisfaction, but it was quickly followed by sorrow. I gently leaned down, close to my mother's ear. Mom, if there's danger, of course I'd choose to take you with me. I've said it before. I love you the most. How could I ever bear to abandon you? As for my sister, let her go and stall the murderer first. Someone has to make a sacrifice. There's just no other way. Seeing my righteous and resolute expression, a look of despair appeared on my mother's face. Suddenly, she thought of something else and immediately looked furious, cursing me out in her heart. So you've been able to hear my thoughts all along. Why have you never responded to me? Have you been lying to me all this time? I smiled and agreed, casually brushing it off. At first, I thought this supernatural phenomenon was just my own auditory hallucination, but I never expected I could actually hear your inner thoughts. Mom was so furious that she desperately tried to stop me from pushing the wheelchair with the tip of her foot, but it was futile. What strength could a partially paralyzed elderly person possibly have? She let out a furious, muffled sob. She's your own sister. How could you do this to her? That's a brutal dismemberment murderer. Do you have any idea what she might face? When did you become so vicious? Mom absolutely won't allow you to do this. Hurry and call your sister down. Take her with us. I tilted my head, feigning confusion. It's fine, no matter how much you scold me, Mom, as long as I can protect you. I'll do whatever it takes, even if others call me a venomous woman. So what? Mom's inner voice grew increasingly frantic, her screams piercing straight into my mind. But I can't bear to part with her. She's the little daughter I raised with my own hands. I absolutely won't allow you to harm her. Mom's life isn't worth much. Just leave me here. I don't want to trade my daughter's life for my own. I'm already paralyzed like this. Mom is begging you. Please take your sister and go. Just leave me right here. Hearing Mom's words, my heart grew even more desolate, completely devoid of the vengeful satisfaction I had felt just moments before, having spent decades with my mother day and night. Although she often scolded and hit me when I was young, to me, she is still the mother who raised me. In my heart, she was just a bit strict, but she was still a good mother. But at this moment, seeing the terrified look on my mother's face, I felt utterly desolate. Even a question arose in my heart. Is she really my biological mother? Am I really her biological child? Why must she push me to the brink of death? The last trace of love for my mother in my heart instantly vanished without a trace. It turns out, not every child can receive a mother's love. I stared coldly at my mother's face. Mom, you're someone who cherishes life so much. How could you bear to let me leave you behind? My mother's face stiffened, her thoughts became incoherent. Mom admits, I was indeed quite selfish before, but I was young and didn't understand things back then. Now that I'm old, I won't do that anymore. You are the children I gave birth to. How could I ever harm you? Right, as she spoke, Mom clenched her fingers and desperately rubbed the ground with the tips of her feet, trying to stop the wheelchair from rolling forward. Mom is begging you, don't push me in there. I pretended not to understand. I thought about it, but I still can't bear to leave Mom. All right, let's get you safely to the police station first, and then I'll go back to find my sister. Is that okay? As we got closer and closer to the alley, the despair on Mom's face grew more and more intense. No, you have to go find your sister right now, or there definitely won't be enough time. Stop pushing me. I ignore her and continue pushing the wheelchair forward. I'm going fast, don't worry, we'll be there soon. Mom stammers, tears welling up in her eyes. This time, she's genuinely scared to tears. No, I don't want to go in. Stop, please. I was too tired to keep up the act with her, and the wheelchair finally came to a halt. The inner voice finally fell silent. Ever since I was brutally murdered in my past life, my love for my mother had completely died. It's just that now, I've witnessed even more of her cruelty. As a mother, how could she be so heartless as to lay a hand on her own child? I sneered at my mother, feeling an overwhelming surge of hatred in my heart. Everything you've ever said to me has been the opposite of the truth, hasn't it? Hearing these words, Mom's pupils suddenly contracted sharply. What, sweetie, what are you saying? Mom doesn't understand. What reverse psychology? I sneered and exposed the truth. Stop pretending. Actually, the murderer is hiding in the alley, and the hotel is completely safe, right? Cold sweat dripped down Mom's forehead. Sweetie, what are you talking about? The murderer is really in the hotel. How could I lie to you? I sneered. Then why don't you dare go into the alley? If you want me to believe you, then go in yourself. I let go of her hand, signaling for her to make her own choice. Mom's expression twitched slightly for a moment, then a look of determination appeared on her face. All right, Mom will go in. Since you don't believe me, I'll prove it to you. Mom slowly moved the wheelchair with the tips of her feet, gradually heading into the darkness of the alley. But the next second, she suddenly turned around and lunged at me like a starving tiger, her face filled with ferocity. She used all her strength, pushed off with both feet, and somehow found a thin rope in her hands. Whoosh! The rope was wrapped around my neck, and Mom yanked it tight. Her eyes were fierce as she shouted in her heart, "Go to hell." But I had long been on guard against her. The moment the rope was swung, I immediately crouched down and rolled to the side. I never expected to dodge so smoothly. Even though the rope was almost about to wrap around my neck, I still managed to dodge it effortlessly. Mother's expression instantly froze. At the same time, having left the wheelchair, her body could no longer support itself, trembling intermittently on the ground. Her fingers tightly gripped one end of the rope, refusing to let go. I couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. If I hadn't been on guard against Mom, if I had really been trapped by the rope, the outcome would have been. My eyes turned cold. As expected, I knew it was you. Mom's face was filled with disbelief. Inner voice, how could this be? How is this possible? how did you know I hit a rope? Could it be that you never believed me from the start? You've been guarding against me all along. I patted my chest and helped my mother, who had fallen to the ground, back into her wheelchair. Then, I pushed her back into the depths of the alley. Mom's expression shifted from anger to disbelief, finally freezing into fear. No, Mom was wrong. Mom was wrong. Please forgive Mom, baby, please. I don't want to die. Don't push me in. I was really wrong. I was really wrong. As her expression turned to extreme terror, I slowly brought the wheelchair to a halt. Mom breathed a sigh of relief, a look of gratitude spreading across her face. I knew it. You love Mom the most, right? I swear, I'll explain everything to you properly later. Hurry and take Mom back to the hotel. I smiled at her. The next second, I forcefully pried open the automatic brake component of the wheelchair. Under Mom's disbelieving gaze, I stepped back out of the alley, one step at a time. No, don't, save me, I don't want to die. But the wheelchair had no brakes, and it could only slide step by step toward the deepest part. It wasn't until my mother had completely disappeared that I turned around and left. I didn't return to the hotel. Instead, I searched everywhere in places with surveillance cameras, searching while calling out, Mom, where are you? For hours later, after making sure everything was absolutely safe, I tearfully called the police on my phone. Hello, is this the police station? My mom is missing. I returned to the hotel, utterly exhausted. My younger sister peeked out curiously. Sis, where's Mom? Why didn't she come back? I patted my sister's head. Mom's gone out to have fun. You should rest first. My sister, who had been waiting until midnight, was already sleepy and fell asleep as soon as she turned over. I looked affectionately at my sister's sleeping figure, feeling a sense of peace. This is my living sister, not the tragic corpse from my past life. What I didn't know was that while I was sound asleep, my phone was blowing up. Cheng Ruobo and Sher Manning called me countless times and sent me countless text messages. It wasn't until the next morning that I felt like checking them one by one. I was just too exhausted last night. Sher Manning, where did you go? Did you go to the police station for bail? Where are you? Cheng Ruobo, honey, believe me, I really didn't mistreat your mom. Please come pick me up. I really didn't do anything. I turned off my phone with a blank expression. I first woke my sister up. Stay in the hotel and sleep. Don't go out no matter who calls for you. Understand? My sister nodded in confusion. Don't trust anyone, no matter who it is. After making sure my sister understood, I packed my things and left. Before leaving home, I specifically packed a bowl of porridge. The first thing I need to do is to check whether the porridge has been laced with abortion pills. I took the porridge I had packed last night and rushed to the hospital to have it tested. After waiting for 3 hours, the results finally came out. The doctor looked at me with a serious expression. The food was laced with homemade abortion pills, all made from low-quality chemicals, with a 50% chance of causing the pregnant woman's death. Where did this stuff come from? It's all prohibited contraband that isn't allowed to be sold. The doctor stared at my swollen belly, his face full of concern. You didn't drink this porridge, did you? My heart went completely cold. I shook my head in a daze, forcing myself to calm down. No, thank you, doctor. The doctor sighed, as if thinking of something, and patted my shoulder comfortingly. Go report it to the police quickly. Don't be soft-hearted. I wiped my tears forcefully and resolutely headed to the police station. At the police station, Cheng Ruobo finally saw me appear, his eyes lighting up with excitement. You finally came. I really didn't harm your mother. I nodded. Yes, I know. Cheng Ruobo's smile had just begun to form on his face. The next second, he suddenly froze. I forcefully slammed a bowl of porridge and a report onto the table. I'm going to call the police. Someone is trying to murder me. 15. Cheng Ruobo's smile was quite unpleasant. Honey, what do you mean by this? I sneered coldly. Are you blind? Can't you see it says excessive toxic chemical agents? Sher Manning majored in chemistry in college and now works part-time at a pharmacy. Panting as she rushed to the police station, Sher Manning happened to hear these words, and her expression instantly turned extremely awkward. Let me explain. I pointed at her for the police. This is also one of the suspects, the woman my husband, no, my ex-husband, had an affair with. I smiled. I haven't even said anything yet. And you're already asking to explain. Isn't that just admitting guilt on your own? Sher Manning's expression froze as she frantically waved her hands. No, it's not like that. I just saw your expression looked off, so I didn't feel like talking to them any further. As soon as I finished giving my statement, I left immediately. Behind them, Cheng Ruobo and Sher Manning were detained as criminal suspects and denied bail. I was busy taking the statement for the second case. My mother's body was found in the alley, and the criminal suspect had already been arrested and brought to justice. The forensic examiner detected a 3-month-old male fetus in her abdomen. The police officer looked at me, hesitated to speak, and finally handed me 2 reports. These were my and my sister's insurance policies, with our mother as the beneficiary. Oh, right. My husband also bought one for me. I left the police station and let out a long sigh of relief. The sunlight shone on my face. And only then did I finally sort out everything from my past life. In my previous life, my mother somehow obtained a mind-reading tool that allowed me to hear her inner thoughts, which she used to manipulate my subsequent actions. She orchestrated the deaths of both my sister and me from behind the scenes, all for the sake of those 2 insurance policy payouts. My father had passed away many years ago, yet she was pregnant with a child. For the sake of the male child in her womb, for the future of her son, she was even willing to sacrifice the lives of us 2 sisters, and her lover was none other than the brother of that criminal. Cheng Ruobo and Sher Manning did indeed have an affair, but that was just a lie my mother made up to force me to run away from home. I just never expected that by pure chance. She guessed right, allowing me to escape a disaster. I still have a question in my mind: who wrote that note on the property deed? At the door, my sister was waiting for me with a smile. As soon as she saw me, she immediately ran up and took my arm. Sis, why are you so slow? I frowned tightly. I told you to wait for me at the hotel. Why did you come out on your own? It's dangerous outside. A hint of deeper meaning flashed in my sister's eyes. How's the note I wrote? My pupils suddenly contracted. It's you. My sister raised her eyebrows smugly. Sis, you're not the only one who's been reborn. After hearing the 2 stories above, what are your thoughts? Feel free to share your opinions in the comments section. Looking forward to hearing from you. If you liked this story, don't forget to like it, share it, and subscribe to my channel. See you next time.